Now, Minister Lamula, meanwhile, also says that an extradition request for Atul and his brother Rajesh Gupta has been submitted to the United Arab Emirates. Now, the brothers are accused in two criminal matters in South Africa. The brothers were arrested in Dubai after an Interpol red notice was issued for them. Let's speak now to immigration attorney Ashraf Essop, who is joining us now. Thank you so much for your time. Let's start with the significance of this latest step, submitting an extradition request. How significant and important is it?
Hi, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. So I think this is a very significant step because we know that this matter has been dragging on since at least 2018 because it took such a long time following lengthy dialogues for the two countries, that is the United Arab Emirates and South Africa, to enter into a treaty which was ratified in June of 2021. Now, so far we know that the initial hearing was before a special tribunal of 3 judges relating to the extradition in the UAE. And the decision of that special tribunal can be appealed before the Court of Cassation, which is the Emirates' highest court. Typically, most extradition proceedings are held in private. And as we know, the processes have taken at least 60 days, and it could take a few more months, depending on whether the accused accepts the extradition request and at the time taken by the South African authorities to share the documents requested by the UAE. Now, it's also significant because the South African government has now sent a request with the information docket in line with the treaty signed with the UAE. It's very important to know what the information is in these dockets, which includes the details, location, and nationality of the persons, as well as the offenses issued by the judicial authorities in South Africa, as well as, now importantly, a certified copy of the arrest warrants issued here in South Africa, which we know has now resulted in the Newland and Estina matters where an arrest warrant has been issued. So I think the significance is that things are moving on at, I would suggest, quite a rapid rate, but that's not the end of the matter, because the accused, they have to either accept the extradition request, and if so, that moves forward. But if they reject the request, the UAE prosecution and the courts have to weigh the information sent by the South African authorities. Now, if the documentation provided does not appear to be sufficient, then additional information can be sought and will be submitted by the South African authorities. Very important. Yes.
Pardon me for coming in there. Could they also then raise the argument if they, don't accept this particular request, that they may be subjected to inhumane treatment if they are to be extradited, or that the crime is politically motivated? How could then this particular argument, if it were to come from them, throw a spanner in the works?
Well, as you know, accused can raise any number of defenses, both on the merits and things falling outside the merits, such as that you've pointed out that they would be subject to inhumane treatment or that the matter is politically motivated. However, the South African authorities have a very powerful weapon in their hands, which is the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into State Capture, which was extremely expensive and took a very, very long time and made a lot of recommendations. And that would stand them in good stead to say that, look, these things are not politically motivated. They were investigated, witnesses were called, invitations were sent out, and there was fair and due process. I think some of the things that the UAE government might take into account to counter such a suggestion by the accused is, in terms of Article 3, an extradition will be granted in specific cases that includes if the action is an offense in both countries, punishable with imprisonment for a year or more, and if the offenses relate to taxation, exchange control, customs, or other revenue matters. Now, we know that part of the dossier is how the money left South Africa and through which banks and through which denomination of currency. So those things refer to exchange control. And I think the UAE the treaty makes specific reference in Article 3 to such considerations. The treaty also allows for property to be seized as part of the extradition process. Now, we don't know what property the Guptas own personally in their own name in the UAE or elsewhere. Because in terms of Article 15 of the extradition treaty, the UAE is entitled to seize all property, articles, or documentation that is found in the territory of the UAE which was connected with the offense for which the extradition is sought. So again, you can see that the threshold is quite high for the accused to try and prevent an extradition.
So
now, yes?
Pardon me, listening then to the steps that now need to unfold, the NPA head, Advocate Shamila Batoy, says that it could take several months before South Africans see the Gupta brothers in South Africa. But I'm listening to this process as you describe it and looking at, some of the hurdles that even some of the, immigration experts say may have to be jumped here in order to get them back finally in South Africa. These months could turn to years. Would you agree?
Well, it depends how quickly the UAE legal system works. And you're quite right, it can take many, many months. I mean, if our State Capture Commission inquiry took so many months to settle, you can imagine what a thorough process that was. You could imagine the same being applied abroad. And these are not accused that are willing to just submit to the jurisdiction of the South African courts. In fact, when we speak of the nationality, this was an important point that one has to consider, because the question that then arises, who are the Gupta brothers the nationals of? In terms of Indian law, they may not be dual nationals, but in terms of South African law, they were enjoying dual nationality. You would remember that they brought an application recently for the renewal of their passports. Now, a passport is a document only given to citizens of any country, like South Africa. So that raises an interesting question. Which country do they enjoy nationality of? Because that's one of the things that the Dubai authorities would definitely take into account. And the other...
pardon me, you can wrap up very briefly?
The bail, there's a report that they've been denied bail. Again, this is a discretionary thing by the Dubai authorities, and we don't know the real position, but they could be personally and liable, or they could give financial security of one form or the other, or indeed raise the point that I've just raised, the surrender of the passport or depositing of a financial bond.
All right, let me thank you for your time and really for putting us in the picture there of what happens next. I guess this is not the last time we're going to be speaking, because this is a matter that is, as you say, likely going to take quite a bit of time. But that was immigration attorney Ashraf Essop taking us through the process that unfolds now when it comes to the Gupta extradition process.